Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my review of the Adidas Climacool shoe, right? So they just call it the Climacool. That's what it says on the box, which is pretty weird because Climacool is actually Adidas's technology for what they usually say is a Climacool material or Climacool shoe, and it has really good ventilation, right? And it's a summer shoe and all that. But of course, with this is one of the craziest and most unique looking shoes I've seen in a while, right? And I wore these outside, you know, when I was going out to the mall with my girl or something like that. And a lot of people ask me like, hey, what are those? Those are really, really cool. And yeah, so these are Adidas's 3D printed shoes, right? And the entire shoe is 3D printed, right? So of course, a long time ago, we had the 4D Futurecraft, right? And this was an actual 3D printed midsole, right? And this was actually pretty crazy as well. And then the upper, of course, we had the Prime Knit. It's super duper thin, very well ventilated. You guys remember that? Super stretchy, very comfortable. But yeah, a lot of companies have been dabbling in 3D printed shoes or slides, of course, you know, like this A6 slide. But no shoe company has done an entire shoe that's 3D printed, right? So yeah, this shoe retails for 140 bucks, which I think is a pretty dang good price, especially considering like their Ultra Boost and like, you know, the Futurecraft and all their 3D printed midsoles were like 200 bucks, you know what I mean? 180, 200 bucks. So 140 bucks retail is pretty dang good. And also on StockX and GOAT, it's not going for too much over retail. So if you guys do want to call, but try to leave in the free link in the description box. But let's get it started right off with the Tracciones, right? So of course, with the traction we still have the foam, right? This is not rubber, it's actually foam. And you can see that there are some parts of the outsole that are filled in, right? Most of the parts are filled in with the 3D printed material. So here in the forefoot, it is filled in, right? And then here in the midfoot, we have some lattice structures that are pretty much see-through, and you can see all the air. You can pretty much see through the entire midsole here in the midfoot. And then here in the heel, they fill it up again, which of course is good for durability, right? And yeah, as far as durability goes, I feel like it's pretty good. Of course, I haven't worn these for like an entire year or anything like that. And it seemed pretty good for durability, right? Especially since they did fill in all the necessary parts, you know, the highway areas, which is pretty much the entire forefoot, but also where the ball of your foot is, they filled it all in with this 3D printed material. And same thing with the heel as well. And it kind of like goes all the way here into the back of the heel too, right? So that'll of course be good for durability too. And yeah, the grip is really good too. Like it has really freaking good grip. I was wearing these to the gym, and you know, obviously I you know, wore these onto the basketball court. And of course, you know, foam has really good grip for some reason. Usually foam has really good grip, like the Curry Flows. And yeah, these were no exception. They had really good bites on the actual basketball court. So these have really good grip too. Durability seems pretty dang good. The only thing that's kind of annoying is, yeah, I don't know if you guys can see, but look at all these freaking rocks. These obviously weren't made for, you know, trails, you know, but I did kind of like, you know, walk on dirt, and like there's a trail next to my apartment and I was walking on that as well just to test it, you know what I mean? And obviously this shoe is made for just like going out, if you're going, you know, to the mall or something, you know, going to work, going to like an office setting inside of a building, you know, even just wearing it out on the streets, you know, it's not made for like dirt and stuff. But I just wanted to test it out, and yeah, there's a lot of pebbles and rocks, but that's pretty normal for a shoe, you know what I mean? If you have a normal shoe and then you wear it outside and it has like a really tight herringbone traction pattern, you know, little pebbles, little rocks get stuck in it anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. However, we'll get into the bottom of the shoe, right? The actual insole, which was a little bit more of a problem, but yeah, just keep in mind, right? You know, rocks and stuff will get stuck in this midfoot area because it is pretty much like it's see-through, right? So there is the traction there. I had pretty much zero issues with that. Now moving on to the heel to toe transition. Heel to toe transition, of course, isn't super important if you're going to be wearing a, you know, just like a casual shoe, but for me it's important, you know what I mean? I like to have something extremely smooth if I'm gonna be walking around all day in these. And I was walking on like a lot in these shoes, especially when, you know, when I'm going out with my girl, she wants to go to the mall, she wants to, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's a lot of walking around, and I want something extremely smooth and very comfortable, right? So here in the heel, we also have a very nice curve shape, right? It starts to curve up like right here, It has a nice prominent curved shape, right? So just from that, it feels really smooth, but also the actual midsole has a good amount of compression as well, which makes it extremely soft and really smooth feeling here in the heel. It feels really nice, right? And also, not only that, when I'm doing kind of like heel dominant strides, just walking, my heel also digs into the actual foam for the underfoot cushion, of course. So that all that combined feels extremely smooth in the heel. And then coming here to the forefoot, but also look at that crazy curve shape. So look, just from the overall shape, it's not crazy, you know, like the Leaning Shadow Essential 3. However, these are really nice still, and also still have a lot of forefoot flex. Look at that, it's still a really flexible shoe. So yeah, it just feels like a really nice, nimble, soft, like heel to toe transition, really smooth. So yeah, that makes it really comfortable. And now moving on to the cushioning setup. So also the cushioning setup is really nice. I really like it, right? So the main benefit, of course, with 3D printing is that you can have targeted cushion, right? So they make parts of the actual cushion a little bit more dense. It has a little bit more material, so that, you know, doesn't have as much compression. You can have it a little bit more responsive, a little bit stiffer feeling. And then in some parts of the cushion, they can target it where it's softer, you know, so it doesn't have as much of the foam material, doesn't have as much of the lattice structure, so that it's a little bit softer and it feels way better for underfoot cushion, right? So all that combined. And also another, you know, plus to that is that you don't need to have like a strobe board. You don't need to glue or stitch the upper to the actual midsole. All this, you know, this entire shoe is one piece, you know what I mean? So you don't need to have the strobe board, and your foot is right on top of, you know, the cushion, the foam, and it's really freaking nice. So first of all, yeah, the underfoot cushion and the stepping comfort is really nice. So of course the 4D Futurecraft was really nice, right? So first of all, it did have an insole, right? The insole, it wasn't super nice, it's just your regular, really crappy Adidas insole, right? But underneath that, we actually had a soft mesh strobe board. Look at that, very soft mesh strobe board. And you can feel the actual 4D cushion underneath your foot, and it had good compression. So this was really nice, very comfortable. It's also for the entire footbed, right? So that felt great. And also, again, same thing with this slide, right? This slide, it's 3D printed. You can see the actual structure. It's a little bit stiffer here in the heel, and then the midfoot's a little bit more loose. So it's softer here in the midfoot, but still has really good stepping comfort and a good amount of compression for the heel and forefoot, pretty much the entire footbed, right? But yeah, in this, it's actually a good amount softer than this shoe, surprisingly, right? So first of all, I'm not that heavy, right? I feel like I'm just average weight. And just putting this shoe on and just kind of like standing around and kind of walking around it, just for my first impressions when I first got it, it was really comfortable, you know what I mean? And also wearing socks, I had zero issues. And also, you know, not wearing socks, just going barefoot in this shoe, it was also extremely comfortable. I didn't really have any issues with that, right? So yeah, the forefoot, there's a crazy amount of compression. In the heel, there's a crazy amount of compression as well. And it just feels really nice, right? It feels like you're walking on a marshmallow because it has a lot of compression, but also has a nice rebound back. It's not like super mushy feeling. It also has a nice little kind of like springiness to it as well. It's not super bouncy, however, but it has a nice little springiness, right? As far as the overall core feel goes, it's not great. I would say it's a little bit higher up off the ground than this. So yeah, a little bit, you know, thicker than like the original Ultra Boost as well, you know what I mean? So you're gonna be a little bit taller if you like that, you know, just for like your casual shoes, which is nice, right? And also, not only is the underfoot cushion really soft and comfortable, but there is also a good amount of compression here from the actual midsole, right? So you can actually see, look at this, right? It's this crazy kind of like lattice structure, and it moves really, it has like blades almost, you know what I mean? And here in the heel and also in the forefoot, there's a good amount of compression from the actual midsole. And so combining that compression from the midsole and, you know, your foot digging into the actual soft foam that's underneath your foot because there's no strobe board, all that combined feels great. It's super duper comfortable. I had zero issues with walking around in this all day. And not only that, it's getting really hot, right? So of course this shoe is ideal for summer or like really hot weather. And obviously this shoe is gonna be terrible for cold weather, and also if it's raining, if it's snowing, you know what I mean? Terrible option. I guess it's good that it's like waterproof, and if you don't want your feet to be cold, you can wear it barefoot and you'll be fine, I guess. But yeah, it's obviously made for summer and has really good ventilation, right? So not only does it have really good ventilation from the actual upper material, but also on the bottom. I actually felt a good amount of air coming through the bottom of the shoe, and it felt really nice. It actually reminded me of like a air conditioned seat. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys have tried that. I just recently tried that. You know, like, you know, the cooled seats in the car or something like that. That's what it kind of reminded me of. You know what I mean? Like, it has really good airflow, and on the bottom of my foot, it was really cool, right? So that also felt really, really nice. A con, however, is that a lot of like sock residue. You know, there's a lot of like cotton like stuff on the actual inside of the shoe. You know what I mean? So if you're wearing like black socks, it like gets stuck on there. You know what I mean? And I haven't had these for a long time. I actually just, you know, wore them for a couple weeks. But with this, you know, I don't know if it's coming out on camera, but look at all that dust. You know what I mean? Especially because of all these holes, and your foot is right on top of that. So I have a feeling that, you know, this is gonna be doing the same exact thing. So that's kind of annoying. And if it does that, it's really gonna be annoying to clean out, because if it's in the forefoot, it's gonna be really hard to clean out. You know what I mean? So just be careful with that. That is definitely one con, but the overall cushion is extremely nice, right? And now moving on to the upper, it's the same exact material, obviously, right? So we have this 3D lattice structure. And it's weird because they say the motto for this shoe that Adidas says is that it's made like nothing, feels like nothing, and it looks like nothing, which is, all those statements are wrong. But anyways, yeah, so we have this lattice structure, and like I said, we have crazy good airflow. They're saying it's 360 degrees airflow, which that's correct, right? You have airflow going throughout the entire upper as well as on the bottom, right? So yeah, you can see just how open it is. Look at this. It's absolutely insane. So at like the tip of the toe, like right over here, you can see just how close together this structure is, right? So the actual print is literally touching, and it's like glued together right over here. Super duper compact, very close together here, which is good, you know, especially at the edge of the toe. If you're doing toe drags and stuff like that, you want a little bit more structure right here as well. But then once you get into the top, it gets a lot looser. It's kind of crazy. It's just insane how long this lattice structure is. You know what I mean? Like, it's also really deep. You know what I mean? So it has a little bit of a stretch to it. A little bit of a stretch feel, but also, again, with this 3D printed technique, you can make some parts of the upper, you know, really tight and very sturdy feeling, but also other parts of the upper really loose and very soft feeling, and also borderline stretchy, right? But with this overall material, it's not super stretchy, right? But I do like how it conforms to my foot extremely well here in the forefoot. You know, it's soft, airflow is really good. However, it's not the thinnest feeling material because, again, this material is really like deep. You know what I mean? Also here on the side, we got the 3 stripes logo, and it is filled in with this like 3D filament, of course. And then here where the ankle collar is, pretty much, you know, it does get a little bit thicker. It does intertwine as well with this double layered material, right? They kind of like double layered here. And again, here where your ankle collar is, it's not super stretchy though. It does feel pretty durable though. You know, surprisingly, it actually feels pretty sturdy. So it doesn't feel like it's ripping or anything like that. It feels like it'll last a good amount of time, right? But yeah, the overall upper feels nice. It conforms to my foot. However, the fit is weird, and also just putting the shoe on is a chore. It's pretty freaking annoying, right? So if you're gonna be wearing these shoes with socks, it kind of reminds you of like a drop-in midsole. If you've ever tried a drop-in midsole shoe like the Kobe's, you know, the 808s, the Serious Player Only, Player One Plus, stuff like that, when you put on this shoe, that foam material kind of grabs your sock, and it kind of like scrunches up underneath your foot because the midsole material like is sticky and the sock sticks to it, right? And this entire shoe is made out of foam. So it's not only like the bottom of the shoe, but also the upper that's like sticking to the sock. So putting the shoe on is so freaking annoying and scrunches up. I always had to fix my sock when I was putting the shoe on. So just keep in mind, that's gonna be a little bit annoying, especially if you have a tight fit, right? So moving on to the fit, this shoe is freaking small, right? So I went up half a size because usually for my casual shoes, I like to have my casual shoes, you know, run a little bit long, have it a little bit looser, you know what I mean? And I went up half a size for this shoe, you know, Usually for all my Adidas basketball shoes, I go true to size. This one, I went up half a size because, again, casual shoes, I want a little bit loose. However, it's freaking snug, right? So first of all, length, there's a little bit of length, however. So, but like, look, it's just so freaking pointy. So even for length, I feel like most people, you should go up half a size, right? But also, here in the toe box, it's so snug. I can't curl my toes up at all. And not only is the fit extremely snug here, because it's a very sticky material, my sock didn't really like move, and also because of that, like I couldn't curl my toes up at all either. So it's just a really snug fit. Width-wise, of course, like I said, it is narrow too. And also another thing that's annoying is putting the shoe on. Like, it kind of hurts because, again, you have to really open this up, slide your foot in, fix the sock and all that, and then like my thumb would hurt a little bit as well. And yeah, the one thing though is that, you know, if you do go barefoot, it's a lot easier to slide on, you know what I mean? But I mean, if you're gonna be wearing socks, I imagine most people are gonna wear socks, right? But also another annoying thing, however, is that when I was walking around this, like for the first couple days, not only in the back, right, but also like on the sides and like right on top here as well, it was rubbing against my skin, and it was bleeding. You know what I mean? Like it rubbed my skin raw, and it was bleeding because it was just a little rough, you know? So, and even when I was wearing like the thicker socks as well, like I don't wear like the thin socks, you know, like the really thin casual socks. I wear a little bit, I like to have a little bit more padding, right? So even with those, my Achilles, it would bleed, you know, around this ankle collar, it would just bleed. So be careful with that. It is pretty annoying. So yeah, if you still want a snug fit, then go up half a size. If you go true to size, I feel like most people, it'll be really, really snug. And also with, you know, wearing this for a couple weeks, it also didn't really like stretch out too much, you know what I mean? So again, if you want it a little bit looser, and also I feel like if you want it to be like a little bit easier to put on, then maybe go up a full size, right? But of course, it does get a little bit easier once you keep wearing this shoe. It's just, especially at first, it is pretty dang difficult, right? So just be careful with that. And now moving on to the weight of this shoe. This shoe, I mean, they say it's super lightweight. And obviously, also with their slogan, they say it feels like nothing. It doesn't feel like nothing. Whatever filament they're using is not super lightweight. And obviously that makes sense because I feel like if they use a really low density, you know, filament, it wouldn't, you know, stick. It probably would be very hard to manufacture, right? So it doesn't feel super lightweight, however. Yeah, 12.2 ounces. That's pretty heavy. I mean, that's not heavy at all. That's like average weight for basketball shoes. But for like a casual shoe, especially like a running shoe inspired casual shoe, I feel like that's what, you know, this is. That's freaking heavy. You know what I mean? Like, running shoes are around like 9, pushing it is like 10 ounces, you know what I mean? 12 ounces is very, very heavy for a running shoe. And if you've ever tried like, you know, Epic Reacts, you know, like, you know, running shoes from Nike that are really, really lightweight, that focus on being really lightweight, these are gonna be pretty heavy. They feel pretty heavy. They also feel really bulky, like on the bottom of your foot. Like they're very, very bottom heavy as well. Let's check the other shoe. Yeah, 12 ounces, right? Again, that's not heavy, but it definitely does feel a lot heavier than, you know, some of the shoes that I like to wear casually, you know? Let's check it compared to this. Yeah, 11.4 ounces. So I feel like, you know, adding the 3D material on the actual upper as well added a little bit of the weight too. So yeah, again, doesn't feel like nothing. Actually feels like something's on your foot. But yeah, I wish, you know, they could have made it a little bit lighter, you know? And one way I feel like they could do that is, you know, just making the cushion a little bit thinner, you know? But anyways, there is the weight there. Moving on to the aesthetics, I love it. This shoe looks so unique. It looks great. I love how it just, first of all, I love the color. It's this off-white color. And yeah, also with the laceless look, it just looks super futuristic too. A lot of people are like, oh, what are, you know, they have like a interest to it, you know? But yeah, I really love how simple it looks too, you know what I mean? So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, so yeah, I actually really enjoyed wearing this shoe and it's super duper comfortable. I love the cushioning setup. There are a few cons, but especially for summer, I love how well ventilated it is, first of all. But there are some cons, right? So first of all, again, the fit is super duper tight, and also with the material right here, it is kind of stiff and it was making me bleed and just was very, very uncomfortable, you know? So I couldn't wear it for a long period of time. But other than that, I really, really like this shoe, you know what I mean? So anyways, that about concludes my review of the Adidas Climacool. Hopefully we see some more iterations of this shoe. Will we see a basketball shoe? I wonder. That would be cool to see this technology in a basketball shoe. But I mean, you just have to put the support and also the cushion in different spots where you want it to be a little bit thicker, and also parts of the shoe not as thick, obviously. And you can gear that towards basketball. I think that'd be really cool, right? But we'll have to see on that. I mean, the traction I feel like would be good, you know what I mean, because foam. But we'll have to see on the durability. The cushion I feel like would be nice, just make it a little bit lower to the ground. You still have good underfoot cushion and all that, so that would be really nice to see for a basketball shoe. And also maybe make a lighter version of this, like something lower to the ground, make the lattice structure not as thick as well, not as deep. And I feel like that would be a good alternative to this shoe as well. But also the price point is nice, it looks great, so anyways, that about concludes this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.